All right.
We're in business.
Well, hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Um, I've got Dave Hempton here. He is the founder owner of uh, Forward Fast Media, and we're going to talk to folks that are out there running your local businesses and how your digital marketing can really help get you more visible, get you more reviews, build trust. It's a very competitive marketplace out there with your local home service contractors. So your HVAC guys, your roofing, your moving and storage, your electricians, plumbers, that kind of thing. That's who we're talking to. Um, so welcome, Dave. Appreciate you making the time to come on.
Of course, Tony. Thank you for having me on, man. It's great to be here.
So today we're going to get into some detail on what is a digital marketing foundation that you should have, that your contractor business should have. We'll go into some depth on local search, talking about business profiles on Google, how you manage reputation and trust. What are the best ways to accelerate your leads? Because that's a big thing. And also, what's a sales process contain, and what you should be measuring in that sales process. But before we get going, I wanted to have you, Dave, talk a little bit about Forward First Media and what you guys are committed to.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Dave at Ford First Media. So we've been in business since 2014. Originally, we started just doing graphic design, helping home service business owners get new logos, and that expanded into marketing and website design and advertising as well. Since then, it's really boomed, and we've been able to help a lot of home service business owners. One of our big things is we want to help you meet your personal goals. So we're always talking about business goals, and those are obviously at the forefront of what we're doing. But something that stands out a little bit is we try to make it so that the business owner themselves can have their own goals met. Um, yeah.
Oh,
So
nice.
basically, yeah.
Well, I'll ask you a little bit more of that when we start to get down into these processes. But one of the reasons that we wanted to have you on is just your commitment to the local service businesses, the contractors that are out there. We all kind of live life without a net, and these are the people that keep your neighborhoods running, your homes safe, your homes
Exactly.
waterproof. Just home is where the heart is. Clearly, it's an old saying, but we just love that community, hardworking, honest community out there. And so we thought we would have you on because that's one of the things that Fanet does as well. We work with that same type of audience. So there's some overlap here. But having a capable, trustworthy digital marketing team for these types of businesses means a lot for both Fanet and Forward. And we want to see you guys succeed. I love how you're pulling in like the personal goals, because let's face it, depending on the stage of business you're at with your contracting company, you could be on a ladder somewhere, you could be under the basement somewhere still.
Exactly.
And we want to make it easier for those guys.
100%. I've actually got he's become a great friend of mine now. He's one of our clients, and he's finally making the transition this year from that owner operator seat, not getting home till 10 p.m. to finally being able to get back some time with his family now that he's grown his company a little bit.
Yeah, it's fun to get to know business owners, and when you develop that level of trust, it makes it
Yeah,
all the more important to want to deliver even more for them, which is
definitely.
great. So let's get into a little bit about this, digital marketing foundation. Now, I'm going to go through kind of how we look at this, and I want you to give me a little bit of how you look at it, because sometimes digital marketing can be like religion. There
Yeah.
is a God, but we believe it. So I want to
Yeah.
get a different perspective. Let's put it that way. So
For sure.
kind of the first pillar is definitely generating lead flow. You got to have consistent lead flow, and a lot of people out there have heard of the funnel. Um, you'll notice awareness and consideration when people are out there becoming aware that they have a problem. Now, if you have like a plumbing leak, that's different, or a roof leak, that's more of an emergency situation. Whereas, hey, honey, next year we want to replace the roof. You start doing
Yeah.
research, kind of
Right.
thing. So there's maybe two different scenarios. But lead flow, and that can come in a bunch of different channels or forms. And that's part of what we'll talk about today.
Yeah.
That's kind of the first pillar, is make sure you get leads in the door. The second one really is having a good sales process that gives people a good experience. And we like to always talk about sales speed to lead and sales follow up. So if you are the guy that's on a ladder or in a basement or in a truck all day long, you have to have sales systems that are set up to respond quickly, because it can't be, oh, well, I'll get to you, 4 days later. And so making sure to have those systems and that kind of automation, that technology is available these days. And then the third pillar really is, after you've done a great job, you want to get more reviews, get testimonials, get referrals, and having a process for doing that. So it really becomes this bow tie versus a, funnel
Yeah.
situation. How do you guys look at
Yeah.
it, Dave?
Yeah, so we actually look at it really similarly to how you're kind of laying it out here. I like the little bow tie idea. I hadn't thought of that. We still use a little funnel. Um, but yeah, so we build awareness for the company. Obviously, when you've got the consideration portion for the education, so we're setting up things for these guys so that they can continue to nurture those leads, nurture those website visitors, touch them again on social media, email, SMS where they can. Obviously, try to get as much of them at this point to buy or convert. The loyalty programs are awesome. We're doing some good stuff this year. I don't know if you guys have tried this, but we actually started rolling out those tap cards for technicians. Have
Oh,
you seen
no,
those
tell me
Google
about
tap
that.
cards?
No.
Yeah, so they have these Google, or it's basically like a little credit card, it looks like, but you can put whatever you want on it, and you can actually just tap it to the customer's phone, and it pulls up the Google business profile right in the review area. So some things that we've been experimenting with some of our clients is getting those texts to get more reviews and giving them spiffs or bonuses or anything like that, so they can continue to build that online presence, making it easier for awareness. And that obviously kind of ties back into the advocacy part.
Yeah. So you're saying, like, if I'm a tech, if I'm an HVAC guy and I'm the guy out in the van repairing all the
Yeah,
HVAC units, I can have a card that's associated to my name. And so that if I get a review under my jobs, it goes as like reward points, or it goes to, okay, so Tony got this many reviews and therefore he gets a spiff on this card that you can use.
right. Yeah, so I've seen some companies are doing the spiffs. So it's like, hey, however many reviews you get 10, 15, $25. And I'm also seeing some other companies that are actually doing a raffle. So each review per month is an entry into this raffle. They have an internal raffle every month at the shop, where somebody can win a grand prize, whether that's tools or boots or whatever it is for your trade
Yeah.
that gets your guys motivated.
And so is that something that at Forward you guys administer that, or you kind of refer that, hey, go set this up, or do you set it up for them, or how does that work?
Yeah, a lot of times we'll help them set it up. So it'll be mostly on the service managers to continue keeping track of everything moving forward, because obviously we're not at these guys' shops.
Yeah.
But we do set up the technology for the back end so that they can track it all, and so that the techs can get those cards in their hands and start building more views for those Google business profiles.
Oh, that's an awesome system. Yeah, you got to have a way to get people engaged. That's just a perfect way to do it.
For sure.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this. Is kind of maybe more known in the digital marketing circles than necessarily out there. Those guys running contractors, but and
Yeah.
maybe about a year ago, we started seeing on all the analytics because every good digital marketing company should be measuring all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
We started to see Google made an update. They started implementing AI and what's called a zero-click search or zero clicks. Can you explain that to folks?
Yeah, so basically that just means at the end of the day, somebody's going on Google, they're searching for whether it's information or directly for a provider. Google's AI overviews or the snippets or whatever other fancy thing they've got in the search engine is actually giving all the information that that searcher actually needs. And they're not clicking over to the websites as often. They're not clicking a lot of things as often. And there's actually something new that's coming out on Google for contractors where Google's actually sending an AI agent to go and make phone calls on behalf of these customers and some other stuff I know that they're experimenting with. So that
Right.
even takes it even further from zero click to zero text to zero calls. So that's kind of the direction that we seem to be going at Google.
Yeah, I know we had clients saying, what's happening is demand going down? And actually demand isn't going down. So I just want to say that to everybody listening is demand isn't going down. It's the way they're using the technology to get to the information and um the get to the resources they need. So I think what you're saying, Dave, is maybe in the past when people were doing informational searches, like they're planning a roof replacement, let's say, or planning an HVAC replacement, they would do research on things and they would click on people's websites because those websites that ranked organically would be at the top, and
Yeah.
they would click on those websites and get information off the website. Now they're getting that type of information. They're still doing research, but they're getting that type of information right from the SERP. And they're also getting it right from the AI agent itself, which
Exactly.
Google's starting to help measure on the backside of that. But where do these LLMs, this AI LLMs, where do they get all their information? Well, it's all the publicly available information. They might get it from Google SERPs, they might get it from Reddit, they might get it from LinkedIn, they might get it from all these different places. But when people are looking for information, they're AI, and I purposely put this slide on here and search zero-click searches so people can look at this and kind of see a little definition of it.
No, definitely.
But that's part of having a good marketing team like Forward or Fanit that helps you navigate these types of changes in the technology. I don't know how you guys feel about it or talk about it at Forward, but you become more of a technologist sometimes than a marketer.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, for sure. Especially over the last couple of years, we've really been getting to a point where, yeah, it feels like I'm an IT marketer.
well, we started splitting that sort of resource behind the scenes, needing to
Yeah,
anyway. Like here's people that understand technology, and here's people that understand the psychology of what kind of content you write, how you position ads, and then kind of maybe the bridge in the middle is the creative, where you've got to understand, imagery and video, and depending on what kind of strategies you're running. So
yeah,
everybody should be aware that the ground is shifting, and agencies everywhere are making sure that they stay on top of it.
for sure.
I think that what it starts to lead to is this next slide we're talking about. Expectations are a lot higher.
Yeah.
I love your perspective on this, but kind of we came from this place where, and maybe still a lot of people are still doing this, but when you think about where those leads are coming from, if you're a smaller contractor, it might come from referrals. You might not be as visible online when people search things, and you might buy leads from third parties, and those third parties have lead quality issues. They tend to, or what they'll do is sell them to multiple vendors, and now the experience on the customer side isn't as good as it should be. Starting out, you tend to not have a cohesive strategy, and it's kind of like you hunt and peck and say, let's try this tactic. Let's run paid ads. Well, how are they doing? Oh, well, let's put out direct mailers. How is that going? You try this thing, and what happens is it ends up being hard to measure. So you have all this activity and action, but it's hard to measure, and so you really don't get a handle on what is happening, what's working, what isn't, and it feels hit and miss. Would
Yeah.
you say, how accurate you say that characterization is?
I'd say that's very accurate. Something I've always noticed too is that the smallest of small businesses, our guys, sub a million to 1 million to 10 million, they're always a little bit behind those bigger, 50 million, $100 million companies. So a lot of the guys we're talking to on a daily basis, they're still buying the scattered leads, they're still sharing leads, doing referrals, and that spray tactic you were just getting into about not having a strategy where they're kind of spraying around, trying a bunch of different marketing. I see that all the time. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. One, because they never give one channel enough time to work, and two, because they never give one channel enough budget to really drive results for their business.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
we get into that fuzzy ROAS, I think most guys don't know. They're just like, is my phone ringing or is it not ringing? So when you start introducing those numbers to those guys, it can be really helpful.
Yeah. Making good decisions, helping them make good decisions. So
Yeah.
when we think about what you're really trying to do, and the whole reason this is, you're trying to build that local authority when you put your strategy together. And it means going after a really defined set of in the marketing world, we love acronyms. ICP, ideal customer profile. Location is a big thing when you're local. Reason why people are searching. Now, again, like we have a roofer that we kind of have a set of ad campaigns all set up to fire up when big storms happen in the Chicago area, in these different
Yeah.
neighborhoods. So it's not something you can run all the time because it doesn't make sense. Oh, did your roof collapse because a tree hit it? Or, did you have a big roof leak you need fixed because we just had a big storm? That's
Yeah.
very emergency driven versus planning things. So it becomes easier, but you have to have a strategy to go after that kind of specific business in that specific niche.
Yeah.
And what is interesting is that the strategy piece really helps you think through, why are we doing what we're doing? What budget are we putting to what we're doing? When we measure it, what are our expected outcomes or performance? And then looking at that information and talking about it in terms of what's working, what isn't working, what decisions do we have to make, where do we invest, where do we pull back. We internally, we call that closing the loop. With clients, we usually do it every month, or try to, that's something that's interesting. Walk me through how you guys manage clients in that way. What do you guys look at that's maybe different or better than this?
Could you give me integrated a little bit better? I don't know if anybody's really necessarily better. I think a lot of people just have different ways of doing things.
Yeah.
Recently, we built out this whole new system for our clients that we're still kind of in the process of onboarding everybody on. So we've got this new, custom coded CRM. It's got all their metrics inside there for their ad data, their SEO data. So we're
Hmm.
starting to onboard them onto that. So that's really good because then these guys every single day they can just flip open their phone. They've got all of the data they need at the, scroll of a thumb.
Yeah.
So that really helps close the loop on a lot of this stuff. Like, how's my SEO doing? How's Google LSA versus Google search ads doing? So just providing them all of that data through
Yeah.
APIs and things um, to
Do you
get
think
that
that's
to them.
part of a, oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I was done.
Um, do you think that, because you brought up something really interesting to me, and maybe this is tangent or whatever, but you said, oh, everybody has their different way of doing things. And I wonder if there's some standardization opportunities in the marketing industry itself that'll
Yeah.
start to occur. Uh, there's just a thought that came about. I love what you're saying about giving them the data at their, their scroll thumb tip. Do
Yeah.
you find that you have to walk agency or walk business owners through, like, what does that mean? Okay, great, it's going, the graph is going up, but what does that actually mean? Because they think in
Yeah,
terms of
definitely.
got a lead, closed the deal, got paid. At the
Definitely.
core, that's what they um, typically care about,
Yeah.
until they get a little bit larger and more sophisticated and start looking at that data and what it tells them.
Yeah, so here at Ford First Media, so we have what we call top level data and bottom level data. So the bottom level data is everything that makes sense to a marketer, but wouldn't make sense to a contractor. So that's your impressions, your click through rate, all of those metrics, they're available, but what does it mean? What does it mean if this went up by this much? And then you get into constantly answering questions, which I advocate that everybody knows exactly what all of this stuff means, but it can get a little bit overwhelming after a while.
Yeah.
So for our top level data that we're showing like, okay, this is how many phone calls you got, this is how many form submissions, text messages, from each of these channels, from you got this many leads. This was your lead to close rate for an estimate. This was your lead to close rate for a sale. This is how much money you made. This is how much estimate opportunity is still available for your sales team to go out and close. So that's that top level data. That's the stuff that really gets them going. And, at the end of the day, that's the graph they want to look at. Like I want to see my spend be moderate and I want to see my revenue continue to go up.
So when we talk about a strategy, I love that top and bottom level data. That is important. Um,
Yeah.
it's like, if we have to dig in the details, we certainly can. But here's what we all care about: this top level data. Um, so I'm not going to go through all the details of this, but what we typically include in a strategy um, to make these 7 things pop across, with those 3 pillars, you know, how do we make your website more visible and make sure it's mobile friendly, especially, when you start looking at who, for local service contractors, um, where people look for you when they're searching for your kind of service. Um, more visible, clean website presence. We can get into some real detail there, but then using LSA and Google ads. Oop, we lost him, I think, maybe. Um, but using LSA and Google ads, so ads can really boost or accelerate lead gen, but it means you also have to invest some cash. Um, and same with social advertising on Meta and other social platforms. One of the things that Dave talked about earlier was making sure that we're active on social media accounts. So if you have an email list of past customers, asking for referrals, giving them promos, keeping them in the loop. You don't have to constantly bombard them with emails, but every now and again they should see your name and your logo and a brief topic. I'm getting a text from Dave that his internet went out, so he'll be back shortly. But making sure your strategy has thoughtfulness around all of these things is really part of that local service contractor business that you've got to do a variation of all of these things. And over time, and the reason why it's a loop around the business in the middle there is you get better and better at each layer. So if you imagine this is a spiral going upwards, you iterate and you get better at improving your search rankings. You get better at running ads. You get better at the process of sending emails. You get better at doing things to reward your customers, but also your team members, as Dave was talking about earlier. When you start getting traffic and people to your website from ads and search and referrals, you start to look at that and say, how well does that website take those that traffic that's looking for us and converting it into leads, into quotes.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. I was just kind of going through all of the different elements of a comprehensive strategy, local strategy. And one of the points I wanted to bring up is, and did bring up, was the idea of that you constantly iterate on these things to get better and better and better.
100%.
It's usually not perfection when you come out of the gate, but you always want to get better in each of these areas. And the companies that grow to 8 figures and beyond are the ones that have over time invested in, got good at, improved in each of these areas. So it works as a full system. And that's probably the biggest secret, right? What are we doing
100%.
next? Where are we improving next? How do you guys look at this, Dave? And am I missing anything on this in terms of strategy?
So we look at the strategy a little bit differently than most people do. So we wouldn't start with the website, but it depends on the size of the business, right? So that's where it all wraps back to the size of the business and at what stage in the business should you have each thing done. So that's kind of how we look at it. So we look at it in growth stages, kind of like growth spurts, So
Yeah.
as we move through growing the company, increasing revenue, increasing headcount of technicians, that's when we start unlocking some of these next levels of the strategy and of the system. So we start more with like an organic foundation, all of your listings, your Google business profile, and depending on if you have the bandwidth or your techs have the bandwidth, doing that social media video content in the beginning, checking those Facebook groups. They've got some tools now where you can actually scan those Facebook groups. So that's been really nice for some of
Oh, yeah.
guys. So doing a lot of the organic out of the gate, and then we kind of start moving into LSA. The reason why we start on LSA is because you got that crediting process. So, if a marketing guy or an insurance guy is giving them a call, they can get some credit back on that. It helps get their feet wet with advertising and kind of starting to understand how it all works and how it plays out and what your lead cost is and different things like that. And then once we've gone through LSA, that's when we would start optimizing that website, rebuilding it, making it look beautiful, making it look on brand, making sure that it's converting well, and then we get in those Google search ads.
So what you're really telling me is it's part of your job to understand what stage of business this contractor's in, what are they doing today, what level of success do they have today, maybe what are their goals, what are they trying to achieve, and your strategy is to know what to do next and why. That'll get
Exactly.
them those results.
Right on. So when we first talk to a contractor, we want to figure out what have you done so far? How did that go? What are you
Yeah.
doing today to make the phone ring? What are your personal and what are your business goals? And then based on revenue levels, technician headcount, we plug them into this system of, okay, you're here, but you don't have X, Y, and Z done. So let's finish up all that stuff, see where we're at, and then we can start moving forward with that system.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And either way you approach it, you do have to understand that level of business, that stage of business, what they can, what that business, here's one thing that is kind of interesting, what that business can afford. Oftentimes
Yeah,
owners of businesses say, oh, this is what I can afford. Well, it's not what you can afford. It's what the business can afford and needs to
right,
afford. Although a lot of smaller contractors see themselves as the business, and that's the other kind of psychological step we see business owners take as they grow. They separate themselves from their business and they're able to look back at their business and saying, this thing that we built, what can it afford?
right.
And taking the personality out of that, that's another, growth stage we see companies need to go through.
Definitely. And when do you get into those I've noticed a lot of companies as we come into like the million and a half mark, those guys, they're so attached to like this business is me that it's so hard to peel them out of that role and get them to actually think at a high level of, okay, now I'm orchestrating all of this. I'm not in it every day.
Yeah. Is that the reason why maybe you guys focus a little bit on the personal goals too, to kind of get
Yeah.
a feel for who that person is?
Yeah, so in our experience, I've had it in my own business. I'm sure you've had it in yours. Sometimes the guy in charge is the biggest bottleneck in the whole system. So if we can make sure that the owner is happy, the owner is getting everything that they need, they can kind of take that step back, look at everything from a high level instead of being so granular on the day to day.
Yeah. There is a mental game to all this. Um,
Definitely.
so the other thing that happens is you could have the best strategy. At least we've found this, but if you're not clear on these three things, like crystal clear, it doesn't matter really what you do. Um, and this is kind of the old school mentality, but like, who are our customers? One level could be, oh, our customers are people that need their roofs replaced. Our customers are people um, that need, to have a new HVAC installed, or a replacement of an HVAC, or a repair of an HVAC. Okay, that is one level, right?
Yeah.
Um, but getting into the why do they choose you over others? What made them choose you? Okay, so they found you. Do they like the story of, Dave and his kids? Do they, it could be a bunch of different things, but you got to figure out why, and
Mm.
look at how competitive is this market in terms of contractors that service the home. So there has to be ways that you stand out once people do find you. And that's really important to think about. And a good marketing strategist will help you think through that. And then most people say process, but I like to say the experience you give people. What is it like? How do we tend to organize it from inside out, but when you start thinking about it from the outside in, what that experience is like and what you would like as a person that also buys these type of services, tends to help um, marketers do a better job, because then they have handles they can grab on at each you know part of that strategy they're going through. I don't know if I'm making any sense. How do you look at these things?
Yeah, I think you're making a lot of sense, Tony. So definitely, like you were saying, that ICP there, I mean, it's an idea, right? I mean, at the and base bones, if I do roofs, I need someone with a bad roof. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter how it got there. It just needs to be leaking or something. Um, but yeah, you can get a lot deeper. We go through the customers. A lot of that too. A lot of these owners, they don't even maybe look at it at this level. Um, but I've seen some companies with the number one, for example, who figured out, hey, 75% of our phone calls are women, like men barely ever call us. Well, that's weird. We're spending a lot of money advertising towards men. Well, what if we just switch it to be 100% women? Okay, well, now 100% of our phone calls are women. We got 2 times the amount of calls and we're paying half the cost. So like figuring out exactly who interacts best with my story and my brand and my texts and when somebody calls and the whole system, you can really dial in and get some better
Yeah.
results.
Yeah. No, this is part of what good marketers need to be doing. So this is kind of how we look at it. I don't know how, but it's like if you're not found on these three places from a local standpoint, you might be a little bit invisible. Now, most people start out being found in one of these places. How do you guys look at this?
Yeah, so I definitely agree. 100%. This is one of the reasons why we start with LSA. So it's at the very tippity top. Google wants the best quality leads for those guys. So that's one of the reasons we start there. Um, we look at it, yeah, you need to be here. And then really what we try to explain to the contractors that we work with is we want to be where the eyes are. So whether that's the top of Google, whether that's the top of the Facebook feed, it depends on your ideal customer profile. Like are my customers hanging out on Google? Are they hanging out on Instagram? Are
Yeah.
they hanging out on LinkedIn if I'm a commercial HVAC company? So just figuring out exactly what that profile is from the last step and figuring out where those guys hang out. So for most service businesses, it's going to be here on Google, and for some other ones, it might be on social or it might be on, one of these other ones.
That's interesting. As you said that, what came to mind was, okay, this is the type of your business. This is your contractor, but let's say your roofers. Where do most of those eyeballs hang out versus plumbers? Is it different? Is it the same? You know,
Right.
um, that's an interesting thought. Yeah, this is very Google centric.
Yes.
Um, so Google, when you talk about your profile, a lot of people may know this, may not know this. There's Google Business Profile is like a little mini web page out there. It's the way I explain it to people, and it
Yeah.
does certain things. Sometimes we've seen when companies will start up, this is all they'll have.
Yeah. For sure. If it doesn't get suspended.
Well, we don't want to go into that because it is a pain in the rear, isn't it?
It is.
Google has it, and it's hard to explain people that haven't been through it. It's like, well, why are they suspending it? Well, they turned on AI and it flagged something, and now it won't let go because you
Right.
know. But that's part of one of the things that that's why we have a that's why we have good clients that trust us to work through this kind of stuff.
Definitely.
But it is a hassle,
Definitely.
man, if you don't take care of it. The one thing I wanted to point out here was a lot of times you'll have your Google local listing or business profile on the right there. Got to have good reviews, got to have it characterized or optimized. So, you're a window cleaner, window cleaning service. Google gives you all those. But also, if you're doing a good job and just starting out with Google, a lot of times on the left, you might not see that business's information on the left. So if
It's possible.
in this case, I did the search for evergreen window cleaning, the first thing that comes up is contact us. This doesn't just happen automatically. This means that site is optimized in a way that Google knows to present this information in a certain way. And of course, I'm near these, Linwood, Shoreline. I'm near these places. So when I do the search, Google knows what I'm after.
Yeah, and that what you just touched on there is really important, Tony. So if you notice that company, they've got specific pages for each of those locations. A lot of guys, they've got a basic services page, or hopefully they have a little bit deeper than that. But it's really important to point out that doing things like that's going to help your presence omni-channel across Google and your Google business profile.
Yeah. We'll get into a little bit in reviews and what's going on there, but got to make sure you have it. This next part, when we talk about leaks in your sales funnel, what that means. Well, first of all, we talked about having the right, understanding your ideal customer profile. Who are your customers? Men, women, age, location, affinity groups. There's all kinds of data you can get on who those customers are, but you need to understand that how you message to them, how you speak to them. It's like my wife says, words matter, and they do. But you also, as they come in and they fill forms or they call, you got to have that speed to lead. You got to have the fast follow up and the professional follow-up. This next one, quoting to win, and I put this in here with people. People love connecting with people that are professional, polite, and knowledgeable. And part of having a process set up is the systems, but it also means you got to have good people in there. So I want to make sure everybody kind of hears that piece. Timely, accurate, professional. So one of the things that happens when you start working with a company or an agency would start working with a company is they're going to want to know how tight is your funnel? What does that look like? And what they're really asking from an agency standpoint, if you're watching this, is, hey, if we bring you leads to this funnel, how well is it going to go? Are you going to close business, or are you going to not follow up? Are you going to not and then turn around and blame for not getting good leads because you didn't follow up? That happens. So you just need to be on the same page with your marketing agency on this. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, 100%. You've got to be on the same page. I say that the strongest partnerships when you're a contractor working with an agency is if you guys can have a conversation every week. And now, obviously, that might be with your account manager, it might be with this, or it might be with that. Depends on the agency that you're with, right? You might not be able to talk to me every single day, but I want to make sure that you're in the loop on everything that's going on, and that our team's in the loop on everything going on with you. The amount of times I've found where before we started checking this as good as we do now, the amount of times we've tried to push a lot of leads, push a lot of traffic into somebody's business, and when it hits, they're like, oh crap, this is falling apart, I don't know what to do anymore. And that's where we kind of get into having to consult with them a little bit. We need to restructure your ops and your sales. Maybe we could use this tool or that tool to help you get there. But yeah, if that's not in line, you kind of just, like I was saying earlier, you hit a bottleneck.
Yeah, I think the best agencies out there, like Ford and Fanet, are helping their clients build systems. It's kind of evolved from, hey, we'll generate leads for you, to you have to have a system built. And again, that goes back to like what you were saying earlier is, well, what stage of business are they in? Maybe they already have a system that works well. They just aren't pushing leads to it. Or, maybe they have a system that works well, but their salespeople aren't closing well enough.
Right.
Or maybe they, it all depends on where they're at, what they're working on. Or maybe they want somebody to
100%.
run a very specific campaign, like like paid meta ads. They don't have that channel operating, and they need an expert in that area, but everything
Yeah.
else they have covered. It really, or sometimes we'll run into, in larger businesses, as they get, to a couple million, 2-3 million, they're like, hey, we used to know how to measure all this stuff, but now our attribution on everything, our data on everything is kaput.
Yeah,
We need
definitely.
someone that really understands how to do that. It just all depends.
And you can get
So
really, oh, sorry.
no, go for it.
I was going to say you can get a lot more granular with that than you used to. There's a lot of technical stuff to get that all set up. But if you are a larger business and you do need more insight on the data, there's a lot of cool things you can do now with tracking all of your leads from organic and from social, direct, and paid channels, and then matching that up to your CRM automatically so that you can just see everything across the board. And that helps fix a lot of these holes.
Yeah. What CRM do you guys, or CRMs, a lot of times it's multiple. Which ones do you guys like to leverage?
Service Titan is awesome. I love the robust API. House Call Pros API is getting there, but they've got a little bit of work to do.
Yeah.
Those are mostly the two CRMs that we spend most of our time in, honestly, at this point.
Interesting. That's great. Yeah, we use a lot of Go High Level. We've been in Service Titan, um, is another big one. So yeah, the contractors are out there standardizing that process, which is great.
Yeah, and I see a lot of the stuff probably in the next year or two with the advancements in AI. I think a lot of these smaller businesses are going to be able to leverage a lot of that and build out some fancier systems for themselves that help them fix these holes automatically and with agents and things like that.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. We could have another 3 hours on that, 4 hours on that
Oh,
AI thing.
definitely.
Impact of digital marketing, impact of AI on digital marketing for sure.
It's going to be
Um,
huge. Yeah.
idea. So reputation is a lot on Google. Now, I know Google's not the only one out there. One thing that we've kind of seen is when you get to about 100 reviews, that's when things start to really scale up.
Yeah.
And if you're watching
100.
this and you're not even close to that, you just need to continue to improve. It's all about improving and getting more and having a system around how you get it. I can't tell you how many times over the years I've talked to people that, oh, do you guys get reviews? Yeah, well, we do a good job. Oh, really? Out of the last 10 jobs you completed, how many reviews you got? Oh, we got 3.
Mhm.
You know, developing a system that is really pumping that out as best you can is my recommendation here. Google's not the only place to get reviews, obviously, but it is one of the main ones locally if you aren't doing it, for sure.
Definitely, Google's got the biggest lever where the more and more reviews you can stack on Google, that makes the largest impact. I do see it falling. I see the benefit falling somewhere around 2000. That's when I would probably start diversifying across, your Yelp and your Facebook and different things like that. I don't see that much scale happening after that point. I don't know if you've seen anything different.
In terms of number of reviews, like
Yeah, kind of where
yeah,
we hit that plateau of like, I don't know if this is benefiting, like the net benefit is there.
law of diminishing returns after a couple
Yeah,
of thousand. Yeah, it's kind of like you still want to run the system. It's not like you turn it off,
exactly.
but you
But
you do look for other areas depending on what's going on there. Depending on the industry you're in, there's a lot of third party review sites that you can get out there. I know things like I'm gonna say this, Yelp's probably listening, but you need to have a profile on Yelp, and you need to have profiles in places. But investing money into some of those things, diminishing returns. But the authority play isn't just on Google. You want to have your name, address, and phone number, and ideally a link to your site or a link to information that you've shared online to out there in many places as you can.
Definitely.
And sometimes we've also seen where you have employees that say, hey, this is a great place to work. When they're out
Yeah.
there talking about you, that's as good as a review sometimes, because what people want to see is when they search for you and they finally get to your name, most people don't click, yeah, sign me up, let's talk. Most people start looking at, well, let's look at reviews. And if you're in Google, that's great. And if you're in other places they can find you, they start to look at authority, legitimacy, and trust. So that's a really big part of it.
Definitely.
Um, and I promise I didn't do that on purpose, but I'll go back to the word experience builds trust. Part of that, we look at it in terms of what they see on your website. If your website's really strange and hard to read and not clear, and um, they might find you, but then when they get to that experience, that's just table stakes. There's a few examples here on a website, but the experience could also be, where else are you at? Where else can they find you? I don't know, Dave, how you see that when you think about the experience and building trust.
Yeah. I think about it, I think probably a little bit deeper than most people do. Um, So building trust in that experience, it starts from every single touch point that that person has with you, whether it's something old fashioned like a flyer or a mailer or a billboard, setting this idea of who you are and the quality, whether it's that or it's the ad copy on a Google ad or a video on social. You always want to be presenting the best version of yourself to your customers so that they can know, like, and trust you.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems pretty straightforward, but one of the things that we've done is we do this little mini brand audit, and we take snapshots of everything, all the
Yeah.
information that's out there about you in the different places. Is it consistently messaged? Does it look the same? Does it
Yeah.
sound the same? Like it's coming from one source, or is it hit and miss? And for most of us, it's hit and miss, you know. But that's, again, it's the whole idea of iterating and getting better each time. So you're out there, you're doing some local service ads, and now it's like, let's put on the jets. Let's start to accelerate lead flow, and we're
Yeah.
going to run paid advertising. Now there's a couple of different platforms, and everybody should be aware that the platform on the right is Google, platform on the left is Meta. Those are two major platforms. The experience of ads and how they're consumed on each of those platforms is different. And I'll just give you one example. And then, Dave, I'll let you kind of go into this in a little bit more detail. But on Google, your people are searching for things. On Meta, they're scrolling through their feed. And so on Google, you target keywords and searches, and you think about that. By the way, when people click on stuff on Google, they're expecting to go to a page somewhere.
Yeah.
Meta, when you're scrolling through with your thumb and you see something that you're the audience meant for this ad, it gets a little deeper than that, but I won't go into it. That experience, you might want to enter information right there on that platform versus be taken off of that platform. So I'll just leave those two kind of differences. I don't know how you look at it, Dave, but the whole idea is to get them to call or click and make sure you're there when they call or click.
Right. Definitely. So over on Google, you're exactly right. Google's problem based. Like we've got research and stuff, but like as we stated earlier, most people are doing a lot of their research. They're going to start looking towards AI and like doing like deeper planning and things with themselves. Um, but when I've got a problem, like something's leaking, something's burst, something's broken, yeah, I'm going straight to Google and I'm looking up problem I have near me.
Yeah.
So when somebody clicks on that, they want to be directed to a page that speaks only about the exact problem that they're having. They don't care that you've got a maintenance plan or any of that stuff. They want to know that you are trusted, you do a good job, and you can solve their problem fast. You know, so that kind of goes a little bit back into that experience thing you were talking about before. But really, people just want from that Google side to have their problem solved. Over on social, like you were saying, it's a lot different. 98% of the people on there, they're not doing social shopping. Um, but if you can figure out a way to intertwine your brand in an entertaining way, like on Meta, what we're seeing is that videos are doing, so much better. I can get 50% customer acquisition cost doing videos versus doing just plain creatives or carousels. And that's
Mhm.
because when somebody's on that platform, they're looking to be entertained. Like they want to like see something happening, as they're doom scrolling their life away. You need to actually grab their attention and create a reason for them to listen to you, whether that's an amazing offer or some sort of a free thing, or maybe it's just an awesome video where you show something super interesting about what you're doing, but engaging them for where they are and meeting them where they are instead of trying to fit, you know, things that don't fit on the wrong platforms.
Right. Right. Yeah. Each one of these platforms, we could spend a whole nother conversation around and show examples and all that stuff. Maybe for another time. But I think the important part here is know that behavior on each platform is different. I think
Yep.
that's the takeaway here. Okay. Almost finishing up. We're coming up on time. And I wanted to just show and talk about what you're trying to measure in a sales process. And maybe there's too much detail, but it's kind of like getting down to the place where leads come in the door, you give those leads quotes, you have your process for doing that, whether it's going out on site. So there, before you get to sale, maybe there's an on-site and a proposal stage. But in general, you have leads that come in, you give those leads quote. Not every lead gets a quote. And then out of those quotes, you get a sale. And then from those sales, you get revenue. Each sale has an average um, price or average revenue. And then you get reviews out of the back end, and measuring the number and percentage and the average sale through that process is really the what I want people to take away here. And if you're not measuring this, it becomes more difficult to figure out where to make improvements in the process.
Oh yeah.
Because then it just goes by feeling.
Yeah.
That's my experience. Anything you can lend that's different to this that maybe you
Um,
want people thinking about?
I have a very similar thought process when it comes to this. And something I love about doing it this way is you can point out where the big problems are. It's really easy as an owner operator. Maybe let's say you're on your first marketing agency and they've got leads coming in. Let's say that you believe the bottleneck is that you're getting bad leads, but really maybe the bottleneck is that You know, Tammy, your CSR, has been sitting there for 3 years, hates her life, and she's really mean to people on the phone. You know, so when you
Sorry for
when
laughing.
you break it down,
Mean
no,
people
it's
are,
okay.
yeah. I shouldn't laugh at that, but it's because it's true. It's the life
It's just
out
very
there.
true. And when you break down this whole customer journey, the whole life cycle of their interactions, the culmination of everything we've talked about, you can pinpoint exactly where those bottlenecks and those problems are. And once you fix that, all you have to do is provide a good service and you'll keep growing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is really true. Um, Another reason why I love having you on this call. Um, so now that's kind of it. I think, if you were to watch this over again, there's some key takeaways, and I probably should have had a slide for this, but measure your sales process is one of them.
It's
Make sure you understand the different platforms you're advertising on and the expected behavior on those.
yeah,
Definitely do things to build trust and reputation. Um, Make sure that when you're measuring your sales process, that you're eliminating those leaks and you're understanding those leaks, and you look at it from multiple perspectives.
definitely.
Make sure you've got a good Google business profile out there and you're optimizing it. Uh, in terms of Google, these are the 3 places you need to be found. Get crystal clear on these 3 things: your customers, your story, why people buy, and the experience you're providing, your marketing is providing, and sales. And make sure it all starts with a strategy. So, that's it for today. Jackie, I don't know if we have anybody with questions. Sorry for the scrolling here. There's a couple of ways we can do this. This is for Fanit. If you want to scan this, you can schedule a complimentary accelerator program. Dave, I don't know if you have a QR code that you want to provide here, and then we
I
could
do not
add it
have a
in editing, or if there's a place we can
yeah,
send people to, because and this is truthful. I want people to have good options. Of course, I want them to go to Fanit. Absolutely. Fanit's putting this on. But I also want to say, if you're looking for an agency and you are a contractor, we have a really good relationship with Dave. And, you know, we wouldn't mind you going to him either. So
awesome.
thank you for your time today and information. You're full of great insight.
Thank you, Tony. It was great coming on the webinar with you guys today. I hope we can do another one of these soon. And I hope to everyone listening, I hope you continue to grow your business this year.
Yeah, excellent. All right, Dave, we'll talk to you soon.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.